Hello. Yeah. Sound check. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Rit. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Another few minutes left. Do we have anyone here? Let's see. How the hell do I see that? Two people here, I think. 3. Cool. I'm excited. I've been meaning to show you guys this track for a long time. If you're here, maybe say hello or something in the chat, just so that I know that this statistic here that I'm seeing. I see there are two people here. So yeah, exactly. Exactly, and we will get into the ring in a bit. Nice to have you here again, cigarette lizard. I feel like a cigarette lizard right now. I got my streaming cigarettes and my streaming beer. I need some streaming whiskey, I think, also. All right. Did you guys participate in the poll on Patreon? I saw there was quite a lot of people who voted, which was very nice. These polls are really helpful to me. And of course, not a lot of people voted for a walkthrough, and here I am making a walkthrough. Let's see if I can find the post. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock. We should get going. My internet is not very good. I should turn off this syncing shenanigans. Yeah, I will turn off some things here. Discord stuff. My computer needs some breathing. There we go. Up. Okay, where did I put that one? Here. So yeah, the results from the poll. It's very interesting. Not a whole lot of people. Well, it was a medium reception for walkthroughs, which is fine. I figured we would do it today for the live stream because I think it will be a very informative thing to do. Because here we will see a lot of arrangement. We will see a lot of effects and yeah, the whole shebang. Everything will be covered here, so I think it's a good way to cover a lot of these topics. And I guess we should get going. I'm not sure if it's only you and me here, Mr. Lizard, or if there's one more. Let's see, I will. Okay. All right. So the track we are walking through today is a track called "Through the Mines of Khazad-dum," and as Mr. Lizard pointed out, it's inspired by Lord of the Rings. I made it this winter when I was watching the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was very inspired by the chase scene in the Mines of Moria. So yeah, the idea of the whole track is basically to kind of make a visualization of the tension and the adrenaline rush of being chased by a Balrog through Moria. It has a lot of big reverbs, a lot of deep bass to kind of build this really massive, monstrous kind of feeling. Hej Viktor! Kul att du är här också. So yeah, I figure we will start by listening through the track, and I will. Yeah, cool. Hello, Ruben. Nice of you to be here. Yeah, it's a bit weird. On Patreon, I haven't really figured out yet how to do it so that I can share the link and the news earlier, because I have to schedule the post for when the live set is about to happen, and then they don't show the post until that minute on Patreon, which is a bit stupid. So I might actually in the future see if I can somehow make the post in the morning or in the afternoon or 1 or 2 hours before, so that people can have some time to tune in. Hello, Damien. Nice of you to be here too. So we seem to be at least 4 people here now, so it's perfect. 1 second. All right. So we will have a listen to the track, and I will try to show it without interruptions. I might solo some tracks, so some sounds, so that you can hear them, but we will go through all of it in this session. We will take our time to do it properly. And if you have any questions during the stream, don't hesitate to write it in the chat, and then I will get to it as soon as possible. Okay, so let's have a listen. Yeah, now we're through the mines. The birds are singing. Yeah, so the idea, like I said, was that it was supposed to be a venture through the mines of Moria. So we start out outdoors. In the beginning, we have some ambience and very big atmospheres with the horns and yeah, it's like a warning call for there's something about to happen. And then when we jump into the track, that's where we jump into the mines and problems start to arise, and we feel that this Balrog is chasing us, and the chase starts, and we come into this cleft inside, like the old halls of Moria, where it's you here we are running through the tunnels. The whole cave is shaking. We can hear the bouncing of this huge Balrog, which is running somewhere. We can't see it, and the whole cave is just shaking, and we are running. And then we come out of this labyrinth, and we come out, and we come to this the old halls of Moria, the abandoned, the ruins, where we regroup. Look around, we hear that there are orcs chasing us. We hear the whispers, we hear the growls of the Balrog, and the malicious laughter of dark gnomes. And then eventually the Balrog reappears, so we run again into the maze and try to find a way out. And eventually we break through to the outside, where the birds are singing. Finally, hello B&E. There's a very famous graffiti crew from where I'm from, Bålsta. Their name is B&E. So I have a cultural history with that. So we will start by listening from the beginning then, and go through the sounds and how they were made. And I mean, as you could see, it's 85 channels, so it's quite a lot. I don't really know how I managed to do that with this processor that I have. Usually I come to 10 or 12 channels, and then my processor dies. I think in this case, I can tell you a bit about the project. This is for Positive Center's release, ISSX, which is short for In Silent Series X something. And this is kind of an experimental series, I think. I don't have all the information, I don't remember exactly. But the idea anyways is that he have made several huge various artist releases where he invites people to make music of the same samples. So he sent me a pack of samples, and it wasn't few. It was like 1,000, more than 1,000 samples, loops, drones, all sort of hits and stabs and effect sounds. So much. It took me one night just to go through it, and I'm pretty fast when it comes to go through files. So I narrowed it down. I don't know if we can see here. Oh, here we can see. Check. See here, I saved like my favorites. You can have a look. Let's see if I have. Yeah. So just tons and tons. I saved my favorites. I mean, like from 600 of these, maybe I saved these, and then eventually I used these 3 or maybe just 1. I don't know. But there are just so many. Let's see. and this is very cool. And also one of the reasons why I recommend you. Hello, ND. Thanks for joining us. One of the reasons why I also have recommended you in previous videos to sit sometimes only with a sound. Perhaps maybe you're making beats and you find a nice kick and a nice kick pattern that sounds really awesome. Then maybe that evening you are you don't feel like making a full track. Try to that evening only make beats, only make kick patterns, only make kick bass stuff, and don't think about making a track. Only make different kind of loops and these kind of things, and then you record them and you save them in a folder. And eventually you do this now and then, once per week or once per month or whatever. Eventually after 1 year, or if you do it once per week, after a few months, you will have folders filled with amazing drum loops and patterns that you have made yourself that are unique to you, and you can start making tracks faster and really like follow your inspiration. Like, I mean, it's not that you. I mean, if you want to make a kick, then you should make a kick, and if you want to make a bass line for that kick, you should do that. But then if you feel like, oh, now I need a hi-hat, I don't know which one I should pick, blah blah blah, and then you have, it's a blessing to have a folder filled with hi-hat loops that you have made yourself already, and you can just thank yourself and you can continue on your own personal, authentic journey on making some interesting music. Hello, Tifton. Very nice to have you here as well. Nice to see now we're 10 people here. Amazing. And basically why I mentioned this is because that's what happened here, basically. Only I did not make the sounds myself, as I usually do. So it's just tons and tons of audio loops, which I have then assembled, basically. And mixed and processed, and I also added some of my own sounds quite a lot to give the cinematic effect of this track in particular. And also, like I mentioned, I usually only manage to keep like 10 or 12 tracks. That's usually because I do a lot of processing, side chaining, and all these kind of things, which eventually builds up to a huge load on my processor. But now when we have audio, it's basically just playing audio clips, and that's not as heavy on the processor. And I try to do that more and more, even when I work with MIDI and all these kind of VSTs. So let's see. We will start at the beginning and see which sounds. It's a pretty long track. It's 11 and a half minutes or something. From the beginning, it was 14 tracks. When I made this, I really tried to push the arrangement aspect of it, since they have made such huge work with making all the sounds, all these ISS clips they have made, and these yell, these 63Ds, I have made, I think, all of them. So it's a mix, but still, here you see all the percussions, all of the hi-hats, kicks, bass line. I've done this, but they have done a lot of work. So, and that's a very important thing, because a lot of people, they are afraid to use presets. They are afraid to use. I remember when the sync button was coming into DJing, people were really afraid of it, and they were talking shit and saying that it was killing DJ and all this kind of fear-driven nonsense. Because the way I see it, when you have technology or other people making something easier for you, that's an opportunity for you to take it even further. So instead of sitting with your favorite synthesizer and figuring out everything yourself, you can start from a preset, And you can think about other things, like maybe you want to make a melody, that's what's important to you, then do that. Don't care about if it's a preset. If it sounds good to you, then use it. You don't even have to tweak it. Seriously. I mean, it's there's so much more to music production than that. I mean, this whole phenomenon where we are, as producers in the digital era, we're doing everything. I mean, 35, 40 years ago in a studio, you had musicians doing all these kind of things. You had for every instrument, for so much. Now we are supposed to know everything, and we are laymen. We are bedroom producers. Most of us with no education. We just want to have fun, and yeah, I get a bit upset when all these aggressive people are scaring people from expressing themselves. It's just have fun, and it's all good. But what I did here, since they had made all these sounds, I figured, okay, so I will take the opportunity when I have so many amazing hat sounds given to me and kick, that I will try to make a big project, as big as my computer can manage, and I will try to push the arrangement as far as my processor can manage also. So that was my challenge with this track. So initially it was 14 minutes, but then eventually I narrowed it down to 11, just to really, I felt that the tension and the drama of the track really could be taken to a bit of a higher level if I just shortened some elements, just so that no one would ever really get bored, that they would constantly feel that the pressure is rising and rising and rising. Hello, Lex. Nice to have you here also. So yeah, for the fourth time, I tell you now, let's listen to the intro and see what sounds we have here. We'll loop this, Control L or whatever Mac shortcut that is. Some little pretzel L or something. Okay, let's listen. Do we hear? Wait, we need to do this. Yeah. All right. So, okay, I haven't rehearsed this at all, so I will explore it a bit with you. Here, okay, Shaman. This is just a field recording. I add these kind of field recordings very often just to give some of this roomy kind of sound. Although we are used to it. Like if you walk in nature, you don't think about these sounds. You don't think about the leaves sounding like this. It's noise, but when you hear it in a track, in a DAW, you really hear it and you think that, oh, this is not good. But for me, I think it gives a kind of real world sound. So I add it to a lot, actually, even though you might not even think about it. It's more a feeling that you build with it. And this is from a ceremony that I had some full moon in November, I think. And here it's me breathing. And back then I used to use the Neutron EQ for most of my processing. And it's interesting to show you because this track I did it in December, so I have changed a lot of my mixing techniques. So a lot of what I show you in this one is not what I will advise you to do in the future. But yeah, this is one part of it. See if we can hear the breathing. Actually, just faint. More noise. This is from the junkyard. Just field recording from the junkyard. This is a reversed singing bowl. You know, the Tibetan singing bowl? I hit it and then I reversed the tail and processed it. You can really hear it now. I will play it with the track soon. So it's just a simple rise kind of effect, but I made it with the singing bowl. And let's see, here we have some horn samples that I recorded. It kind of has a dialogue. The other one. And here I placed these elements because when you, without these, if we listen without these, it's windy, we are standing somewhere, we hear this, the voices, it gives more, not really a feeling of the environment, it's more about the mental tension that's going out. It's while you have the kind of natural, the field recording giving a atmosphere and a reverb, and then the horns come like an element which is right beside you, and you get, by the reverberation of this sound, your mind get a approximation of what kind of environment you are in when the sound travels, like with the long reverb. You hear that, oh, it's a very open, big space. And I tried to have these other horns a bit lower with more reverb to simulate that they were far away, so that we are using the first horn to call someone, and then we get a response from someone further away. Still pretty close though. There. Here it's like it's a mile away or something. This is a drone from their package. It's a lot of processing. I don't know. I realize now that maybe, I don't know if we will have time to go through all of it. I mean, it depends. We'll see. Look at this at least. Where are we? There. It looks like this. And let's listen to it without the processing. So I cut a lot of the highs. I did a dynamic EQ here. I will talk more about dynamic EQing in the EQ video that I will do eventually. What more? Compressor. Is it a multiband? Yeah, I'm compressing the low frequencies only when they, you see, it's just to keep it steady. So it's when it rises here. Since it's such a big difference here, I wanted to make this dramatic drone a bit more continuous. I even added a LA2A emulation, and you see it's working very, very hard. And that's the amazing thing with the LA2A. It really works transparently, with a lot of finesse. Makes it very smooth. And then I have a sidechain compressor here, which is on, but it doesn't work until here when the kick comes in. Let's see, what more do we have? This one, a higher one. Let's see, what's this? Automates to build up before this, whatever happens here. Yeah, I think that's it. We have this engine also. This is one of my favorite sample-based synthesizers by Eduardo Tariolonte. Yes, an amazing, whatever you call it, people who make these kind of, he's a developer, I guess, makes these kind of sample-based synthesizers. This is the Dark Era. He has made one called Era, which is also kind of like medieval inspired, I think, and he makes a different kind. This is a bit darker, and this is like perfect for the Ntogn sound, and I used it a lot on in my live set last year, and I try not to use it too much, but really the content inside is so amazing that I have a hard time not using it. For atmospheres, it's just amazing. We will listen to it. It's a good example of this is like an important part of the track, and it's a preset you can't really change a lot besides the like volume, panning, attack, reverb. I shut it off, pitch, expression. I don't even know what that does, but basically it's that sound, and you play it. I mean, in the context of this track, as you see, I mean, I think it's absolutely perfectly fine to use presets. I think a good thing, if you're using presets, is that you pay for the synth, at least. Because that's what they are made for. They are made by developers to enable producers to use their ideas to make it into something bigger. I mean, if he heard this track, he would think, wow, nice, glad to see it being used. Okay, and then we have the kick part. We will listen a bit. We can listen when it comes in, and we will go through the kick section and the percussions. And I guess we will talk a lot about the low end. Yeah, and this mix has a bit more low end than I think that I wanted. When I send, because this is a pre-master, this is the raw project that I send for mastering. And when I send a track for mastering, I usually inform the label owner or mastering engineer some thoughts that I have about the pre-master. For instance, here I make sure that I sculpt the low end to sound the way I want. I can leave a bit of subs more than I would want, just to reserve those frequencies for the mastering engineer, and that is because mixing is about getting it sounding basically exactly the way you want it timbrally, and by timbre I mean in sound and character. The mastering engineer, his job is to get the levels, the balance right, basically. Basically, when you send something for mastering, what they do is set the brightness of the track right. And they cut the low end a bit, and they pull down or up the low end, up or down the high frequencies, so that you have a overall sound image that is balanced to either the record, to the artist, to the label, genre, or whatever. So for here, for instance, since I'm working with a lot of people that I don't know, I don't know the other material, so I leave some low end for the mastering engineer to work with, which will enable him to pull all the tracks on the record together to sound like one. If I cut low end here and do it exactly the way I think I want it, then maybe he thinks he wants a bit more this, a bit more of that. Then he will have to boost things that maybe are not really there, and that's not possible, really. So it's much better to leave a bit of low end, I feel, for the mastering engineer to cut. And one of the reasons for that also is because low end is one of the hardest things to get right, because it requires acoustics, which can be very, very expensive to achieve, and also a lot of experience, knowledge, and yeah. So I prefer to leave that to the people who have a really professional sounding studio. Although at this point I had a really good studio, I'm not there anymore. But yeah, that's a good thing to have in mind, that leaving a bit more low end is usually better before mastering than having too little. Yeah. But we will listen to the low end, and here we have all the parts playing. So we will listen here. So what do we have? Very long decay. Have an exciter. This is what it sounded when I got it. So you hear the difference? Let's see here. And I have a little click here of my own. Here, just this little click. It really, if you play it like this, and this is something that a good technique to use when you have kick drums to play with a click kick to layer, just to pull it a bit, to hear it better in the mix, and yeah, to really sit it so that it's strong and not being overpowered by all the other sounds, because the kick drum is the boss of the whole experience. Yes, Taylor, that's correct. Because when you're sending something to the mastering engineer, he can't lower the bass line. He can't lower the click, he can't change the sound of the kick or anything like that. But what he can do, for instance, if you have the spectrum, for instance, and you have your kick drum here, let's see here. Here you have your kick drum, the fundamental of the kick drum, and it has a lot of power here. And then your bass line is here where the kick hits. You want the bass line to be ducked a bit, so the bass line works here, and then it goes down a bit where the important part of the kick is, and then it rises here, something. A lot of the tactile feeling of a bass line is actually somewhere here in the 100s and 200s, and then you have some rumble here. But this area, the really low end area, if you have the important part of the kick here and the drums and your rhythm section, and then you have low end of your bass here, it's really fine for a mastering engineer to come in here, put some EQ here to attenuate it so that it sits well in the mix. But it's hard for him to go in here and start to cut, because then it really affects a lot of important parts. So that's where we really have to work on every layer to make it sound right. And also, like when we talk about levels, this section here, everything that we hear now, this is like this should sound like you want it to sound. And then if this whole group is louder in volume than the rest of the track, that's fine, and that's easier for the mastering engineer to fix, because then he can just basically, again, if we pull out the spectrum, he can basically just cut with low with an EQ, basically. Just from here, he can just pull a low shelf like this and just lower basically that whole group, because that's the group that we have put here. All the other sounds are here. So that's a way for him kind of to send a stereo mix, but he still has the low end group here. And he can just lower basically by putting a EQ here. He basically just lowers the volume here. Basically. And we will listen to some more elements. Let's see. We had those two, and then we have this one. Giving some saturated, kind of noisy. Bass going on, a lot of sub bass here. Really, also this is a balance. It's really hard to really push it a lot so that it's really aggressive and controlled without it being too much and muddy and without character. And that's one of the reasons why also it's good to have a click track on your kick. That's because when you have something coming in here like that, adds a bit of on the kick, just to give it a bit more power against the bass there. And then we have this, just really low. I don't know if you will even hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. But can you hear it when you play it here? Almost not. But I feel it kind of glues together the rumble boom, because you have some uneven volume in the bass. You hear it kind of woo, 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 woo. And then this one is more like woo. So when it doesn't, it's pretty low, so it doesn't disturb it that much. But when the other layers go down, then it's surfaces, because the other sounds fall below it, so it keeps a more steady kind of bass. And then we have this one. I can almost only have that sound. It's like the only sound you can hear. So yeah, I mean that's the bass layer. We can go into the processing a bit of each channel so that you can see. Here I have not done much, because this is a kick drum that I have made myself and saved from an old Ether Mechanics track. And I only, you see here, I have a high pass filter at 700. Sounds like this. So I just used click, and on the bass, see really aggressive and hard sidechain compression coming from the main kick. It's in mono, of course. Let's see this one. It has a bit more. Let's see how this sounds without the processing. This is what the original sample sounded like. See, this has width, like stereo. We will listen to it with and without the effects when we listen to the whole context. See, the whole rhythm just collapsed. It's like I shut it off, basically. And what have I done to make that? You have the width here. Ableton's utility, the new one in Ableton 10, is really, they did a good job by adding the mono bass. I remember that in Ableton 9, when we wanted to make a bass mono, we had to duplicate the bass, and then we had to filter the low end with like filter out all the high frequencies, keeping all the low end, and have it in mono, and then having a separate track for the stereo. Now we can just put the bass in mono here, which is very good. I remember I was looking to buy some plugins that did that, but I like to use Ableton's plugins as much as I can. But we'll see here this sound. What have I done? Cut some low end, and I added here, this is the presence range. This is the range where speech is. This is the range where our ears are the most sensitive. So we will listen to it, this freak. Let's see. Yeah, added a bit more of the click, 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 ducking against the kick, of course. Some saturation. And the saturator is not only increasing the volume, it's also introducing some harmonics, adding some extra high frequency and mid frequency. It adds some transients to the sound. I will talk more about that when I make the video on compression. And then the amp, also mono, so I don't know why I did that. Yeah, that really doesn't really... Okay. That's weird. It's interesting here, I put it in mono, and then when I put it here in less width, it's more mono. Okay, so that's that, and you can really hear the difference. It's like the whole track is built on that, on this processing. And let's see, what more do we have here? Probably cut some low end. You see here, you can see that there is a resonance. Yeah, so it's a bit more darker, added some brightness. And that's it here. Let's see if we can hear any difference, probably not. Yeah, you can hear. We don't need that bass, you know. Much tighter. You hear the kick drum is not masked as much. You hear now the kick drum is really struggling and asking us why we are ruining the party by having this horrible guest to the soundscape. So we help it here by cutting, let's see here, number 1. Yeah. There we have the kick drum with its own space. It was this frequency that was causing the problems. And I'm not using this. And the reason why I didn't use this layer was because it had to me too big of a techno kind of connotation. It made it sound like a Berghain rave track, and I didn't want the listener to think that they were listening to techno. I only wanted the feeling of being chased by a Balrog. And some of the sounds which I chose not to use was because they introduced too much techno. So then let's see, what do we have? We have the hi-hat here. See here, and this is automated. I have so much of this here, it's opening up. And when we have it here, it's full. We hear all the high frequencies. Now it's more everything, yeah. everything is just blasting. But here in the beginning I wanted to save as much as I could for later. Just try to build slowly introduce something. Okay, but if you introduce something, take some part of it away, just to keep some of that for later, just to have that impact on the final drop here. And we had this, that, this, is it this one? Earth? No, is that? Let's see if we close this one. And that ride is really nice. And here you can hear in this track, for the arrangement and the energy and what you can do, a ride cymbal can really take you so far when you want to build tension, like when you feel everything is pumping, and then you just add a ride and you go one step further than you thought you could handle. But we will listen to this part again from here to there, and then we will go into this section. And meanwhile, I will go to the bathroom. I noticed that one of the important or really great tool when you're building an arrangement is to have a lot of sounds, because then you can really turn some on, turn some off. You can modulate how do you say, the evolution, the build of a sound, while there are so many other things going on that you can't really keep track of everything. So everything is just, you eventually, maybe you dance to the kick, you are guided by the hi-hat rhythm and some percussion, and besides that you are just following the flow and experiencing everything of it. And it's a good thing to realize, and they work a lot with this when it comes to film. For instance, when you hear a lot of many movies, even though you've seen them many times, you don't even think or notice sometimes, perhaps, that they have music at all, because you're just you're guided by the what you see about the dialogue and everything that's happening, that you are not really thinking that, oh, that's a violin and it's playing a C note. It's like you're just completely lost and in the narrative, and that's something to work with also in music, because the mind can only concentrate on so much, and that's also an important part. And I'm sorry for ranting, but I will rant, because this is we are here for every Tuesday for many hours, so we will just talk shit. And because this is an interesting thing about our mind, is that we can only concentrate on so much. For instance, when we go about our day, we think about the sounds, basically what we see, and there are a lot of sounds that we don't even think about, because we can't process it. And that's why, for instance, when you build an environment in film, you don't add every single sound that's in a room, because it makes it sound cluttered. What you add are the sounds which you usually think about when you're in a room. So, for instance, when you are inside, you don't add the radiator noise and the whatever shit is coming from the basement and the creaks here and there. You have just about what you need and what you want to focus on, and the same applies to music, I think. I studied at the university. We did some film and sound for film. We did Foley, special effects, and all these kind of things. And a lot of the concepts which they talk about in film, I felt was extremely important for music. And they did not mention these things when we were studying music production. And these are, for instance, there are terminology, let's say, for sounds which you can't see. So if there is a sound that's not coming from what you can see on the screen, it has a terminology. They have a terminology for how close things are to the perceiver of the film, and there are all of these kind of terminology that we don't have in music, but especially when we're working with techno music, which is or electronic music in general, which is very, it's really like for me, the pinnacle of imagination. It's not music, not necessarily. It's not entertainment necessarily. It's an experience. It's like a movie, you know? So I really feel that, and a lot of you here, I mean, you are subscribing to my channel because you are interested in music production and you want to excel in your artistry. I recommend you to study a bit of ideology behind film sound, basically. That's you can really just read the absolute basics of sound for film, and you will get so inspired how you can use sounds in your projects to make something interesting and guide the mind. Yeah, thanks guys for supporting my rants. But yeah, that's what I feel basically. The kick drum, bass, hi-hats, and this kind of percussion, the obvious kind of instruments that you keep centered in the middle of your mix, and some atmosphere. Basically, you could consider that what you see on screen, and then besides that, you can add some weird noises evolving in the stereo field. You can have them going low, and that's okay. Now we start ranting about the next thing. The human mind, at least in general, we consider low sounds. I mean, this is obvious now when I say it, but it might not be obvious to it wasn't obvious to me. Low sounds, when we close our eyes, we see it at the bottom, at the floor, and then we see the high frequencies at the top. And this is, I mean, it's, I'm a bit embarrassed to mention it since it's so obvious, since it's low and high frequencies. But when you make that connection, you see that you can actually move something from low and moving upwards by automating it to go from subs to cutting the subs to open up the mid-range, having it floating around there up into the high and just dissipate in the air, you know. So it becomes you have a new dimension to the movement of the sound in your track. But we will listen to the hi-hats and see what this positive center Mike, his name is Mike, and he seems like a really nice guy, and I like to work with nice guys. It sounds really busy. Like if I were just listening to this, which we are now, I feel like, wow, this sounds horrible. And that's an important lesson also to know when you work with mixing, that getting them to sound right in the first place is a good start, but in the end, it's about making it sound good in the mix. And it's very common that sounds that sound horrible when you have them soloed sounds really good in the mix. And then if you go into the sound and fix it, let's say, to sound good when you're listening to just that sound, it sounds horrible, or it doesn't sound right, at least when you're listening to it in the track. Yeah, but the only thing you should always do, at least, is to cut the low end on everything that's not contributing to the low end of your track. This is the low end. This is not the low end. And we don't want any low end here. I don't know if I really followed that rule here. I should have. But you see, this is made in one evening, so it's a lot of sloppy. It's not perfectly done. In an ideal world, I will put a bit more time to it, but that's a good rule to follow. One of the few rules I think that you should almost always follow is to keep the low end for the low end group and filter out the low frequencies from the other elements. So let's see, we have I'm sorry, I just need some beer. So let's listen. This is the one of them. Simple. Original. And that's bullshit, Ableton. If I select this and that, they should both change. original. We will listen in the mix. So it's more masked. And that's because here, too hard. Yeah. And for instance, when we go in here, this hi-hat is absolutely vital to this part here, because we have a silent here. Here we come in here. We have a lot of hi-hats here. And then we have the 4/8 measures here until we have something to the ride. And we just want to add something more. And then we add a bit more here. And then the ride dies. Oh, this came in and something more happened here. And that's the beauty of having a lot of sounds. You can really, I mean, for instance, me when I'm working with 10 channels, I have 3 hi-hats and I really try to alternate between them and create something interesting. And here, you see, I turn on one hi-hat. I play it for 16 bars, I think. And then there comes another hi-hat, which is, and then another one. And then this one turns off. And then you think you have it all figured out. But what actually happens is that we have a percussion sound coming in also. So you actually didn't have it figured out. And then there comes another percussive thing coming in here while this comes on, and then this comes off, and then you hear that, and then eventually you're just, okay, I have no control of this situation. So you are not bored, it's not repetitive. Even though it's repetitive, this is a very repetitive kind of track for 11.5 minutes. But it's really giving, taking, putting away, and really like moving things around, and without it becoming messy. It's just very structured, but still evolving and changing. So you feel that you're having, you can't predict. You're not safe. Although you know where to run, you run towards the kick and the bass, and you just keep moving forward. You don't know where you're going. You can't predict where this is gonna end. You just keep moving forward. Let's see. Aha! Really? I have to try that now. Let's see. Hey! Bonus points to Beanie. This is amazing. Thank you, guy. Thank you, Beanie. But still, I think when I click here, I think it should. Yeah, but that's a really good thing to know. Thank you. Let's see, what more sounds do we have? A question, is my mic distorting? I feel it kind of does. Maybe I should lower it. Let me know if it's disting. Yeah, we have this. Oh yeah, you can hear really the... Okay, we will do this. Can I wipe? Okay, another thing, Ableton, if you're here listening, if I control click this, I want to select this and that. Nothing, I can't do that, why? Come on, you've been doing this for 18 years. Okay, let's see. And you can really see here the harsh transients here. And this requires also a lot of finesse to cut just enough, because we want to have that noise also to give some tension, but not too much to sound horrible, because this whole experience is about building tension, building tension, building tension. And if you have one hi-hat, it sounds. We will try it. We will hear. Let's see. You hear? Yeah, it's too much. You want the feeling. You don't. If you have it too much, then you want the people who listen to it, the experiencer, to feel as building, and nothing should feel like, okay, I really wanted to listen to this, but I really need to hold my ears right now because that sound is a bit too much. It just should be like increasing, and it just feels like it's smooth and building and just growing, and nothing should be disturbing, but it should also not be safe, but it should be safe by the steady beat. And I'm not making any sense right now, perhaps, but yeah. Whew. Let's see here, and we have the ride. That's a bit lower. Oh, no processing on this one. These two really build into like one. These two together, they are like one huge sound. Maybe you think they are one, and this is a very good thing also when you're building an arrangement. You see here, I build here empty, and we have a bit of that, and then we have this coming in, and this goes out, and then we have these two, and then this comes in again, and then the low end of this particular thing over here, whatever, where we were, comes in. So we're really like giving it to the listener more and more progressively to build tension. And then this one. Again, you can hear that really high. See, I cut it a lot. Added some reverb to it. I want to talk a little bit about the processing on this one. Just open a beer here. You see I have the delay. And it's an interesting setting here. You see I have it 100% wet with the left ear with a 1 millisecond delay, which is not a lot. And then on the right ear I have 17 milliseconds, and this creates a stereo effect. It's called the Haas effect, and I will talk more about that when I make a video on delays and reverbs. But basically what it does, when the delay between the left and the right ear is short enough, the mind psychoacoustically add them into one sound. So even though it's sounding first in the left and then the right, dun 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 dun, like a ping pong, it goes so fast that the mind assembles them into one sound, a wider sound. Because when you hear something in mono, that's the same sound sounding at the same time at the same volume. Stereo is when you have different sounds in the left and in the right ear. And now we have the same sound in the left and the right ear, only it's coming later in the right one, which adds up to one more wide sound. And this, see, we have this one in the middle and the other one on the sides. It's also more in the middle, also in the middle, and still we have this one on the sides. Very important concept to know about when you want to create an interesting stereo image. Okay, what more do we have? We have this sound coming in. What's that? Okay, I think this is me choking on my own saliva. This could be interesting to listen to without... Okay, I will do this just so that I remember. And sorry, I will have to save this project as a separate file so that I don't override my own mix. You see, my computer, it's barely managing this whole situation. Yep. This is me making weird sounds. To add some orcs. One of the things I want to encourage you to do is to be a bit mad. I can be a bit too mad for my own good at times, but I can also be very civilized, like this evening. Let's see, what's here? We have some perks. Okay, we will listen to the perk loops. Okay, this is basically a kind of a hat sound though. Moving in the stereo field, you see, because we listened to the hats, and we had they were basically in the center, guiding the venture forward, and we had some stereo effect, but it's basically all static forward. It can be nice to break that by moving some sounds like this to the sides, really having like in this particular scenario, we are running forward, but there are happening things around us. Like when you are running and something is chasing you in the woods, there will be wolves, maybe circling around you. They're running on the sides, and there's something there on the left side and on the right side, and then there's something happening there and there, but you can't You can't focus on that too much, you know, you have to move forward, but it's nice to add that so that you can really give yourself into the experience and really like feel that there are things happening around you. Let's see. This is a bit, you see here, it's a bit to the right. Also to separate it a bit from the main center. Here it's to the right. But we have this in the center though, so you hear this one is kind of, no, not that. Oh, that. It's next to it. So add some space for the main trajectory. Here's something that comes in, you don't really hear it. Here. It's automated. Much more than that in the drums. We can have a listen to the synth loop. Okay, and you see this is a very big project, so it will take some time to go through, but we have time. We'll see here. First synth loop. And I'm so happy that my computer is actually working with me right now. You can see the CPU here, it's really struggling to make me happy, but and I'm very grateful, computer. I have bought a new computer that will arrive, it will be released in the end of May. And after that I will have like 5 or 6 times the processing power of this old laptop, and then will be game changing. Interesting loop. Again, we will listen without the processing. This is the original. Obviously cut a lot of low end. Bass in mono. Put it together. The erosion is very nice to add texture. You will see me using this a lot. Okay, this is this is changing the frequency of the erosion so that the texture is changing. It's a technique that I've been using for many years. Saturator, volume basically in this case, but also a bit of harmonics, just a bit. And the LA2A, just keeping it just a bit. I think okay, let's see here. Let's see, yeah. Keeping it a bit more stable here, and then it doesn't work as much when the volume goes down. I think this is a very interesting, unexpected sound here. Here is just mayhem, and you don't know what to happen, and then there comes some character. Woof, 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 woof. And you're like, whoa, what happened? And it's not maybe here. You're thought, okay, now I know what's going on. Alright. And like, what more is going to happen? Start thinking, oh, okay, a little hi-hat. Okay, nice. I'm feeling... Okay, and then when that ride comes, personally, I just feel that I have come to the right place or the wrong place. I just want to get out of here, and I would run. And you know, you have all these hi-hats, percussions changing in and out all the time, and that's creating a lot of tension. And in the meantime, you have this sound. You have this sound coming in from... I mean, it's playing already from the switch, which I named it. Already here, it's coming in. And it's increasing, and maybe what we're focusing on is the hi-hats, the percussion. I mean, we have listened to this loop many times now, and now we hear that this sound is actually here coming in. And then we listen only to this sound perhaps now. And then we can't focus on all the things that happening with the hi-hat. Is coming on and off, and the Percs is coming in and out and rising, and the filters are coming in and out, and it's not messy, it's just building, like dividing our attention and really just creating a scene where everything is happening in unison, moving forward, but we can't keep track of it, so we have to just experience it and move on, and really like just run toward the mental goal. And of course it just increases until my computer dies. And here when it starts to peak, we get all these coming in, because here we didn't have any drones, and when we were here we didn't think that, oh, we're missing some drones. We were already having like, whoa, what the fuck happened here? This thing happened, and then this were starting to build, and then the percussion and this and the hi-hats started to come, and then went in and out and in, and this what happened, blah 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 blah, and we were just didn't think that we would need any drones or anything, and then they started to come here, and we were like, whoa. Some sort of rise there. Here, maybe. Yeah, I've created a rise here. Good. Small stuff like that really add to the produced and crafted feel of the track, I feel. I mean, we have been in previous videos we have been making loops, we have been making rough arrangement, and one of the details I think that a lot of when you really want to make a finished track is making small stuff like this here and there, and it can take a lot of time to find the right material to use. For instance, this one is probably a hi-hat or cymbal, which I have one of these probably that I have recorded just one hit with the reverb, and I have recorded the reverb like this, and then I have reversed it and put it here to make it fit organically. But then of course these, you can save them in a rise folder, and then when you need a rise you can just pull one up, so you don't have to make them, which is I wish I have done that more, but I haven't. Okay, and then we fly into the break. We will listen to it. Yeah, so it's a, let's see here. We have the hi-hat coming in. Increasing. But the main parts are, we will look at these monsters that I made. Within the Hypnos crew, I am famous for my little monsters. People always tell me, oh, you need more monsters, more Ntogn monsters. And I created them here. And these are actually not field recordings that I've made myself. These are field recordings from Yellowstone Park in America. They gave out, they had like a library of free field recordings. I will try to remember to share it on Patreon. Wait, I will have to make a note. I will make a note to remember this. They are all free, and there are amazing recordings of animals and different geysers and just natural recordings. So just let me write it here in my Patreon little note here to remind you about that. Yeah. So I added some coyotes. It's not like the optimal thing for this particular scenery, since I wanted it to be like the ruins of Moria. Maybe there weren't so many coyotes there, but I still wanted to add some sort of mayhem and some sort of that you came into a place where there were things happening. So I figured that with a bit of a stretch, I would think that there were some creatures at least in this space, which were represented in this case by coyotes. Yeah, we will listen in context. Yeah, you can hear the coyotes singing. Again, the horn from the beginning. Like we're regrouping, calling the horn. Yeah, our friends are still there and we're here, but where are we? Where are we going? There's a lot of things happening, the sounds here and there, creating an atmosphere. But yeah, I think we will need to listen to a particular sound, and that is the Balrog. Is this the one? Yeah. So, let's see. I will look at the comments. Let's see. Yeah, that's great, Lizard. Really, I use my Zoom recorder every week, record sounds, and it's really gives a new dimension to the to my music, especially for the Ntogn stuff. But also the ether mechanics for sure. But anyways, this is the bison. Let's see. This is what it sounds like. We will disable the. Hey Alan, nice to have you here. And we will listen to the raw recording here. This is a bison. That's so cool, you know? Oh, I need to remember the 0. Actually, this is what it sounds like. I added this. Cut some lows, cut some highs. Up again. And then the atmosphere. And then I had the -4. Pitch it down. Interesting fact is, for instance, when you want to create these monsters kind of sounds, I think a lot of sound designers are using actual animal sounds to create these sounds. For instance, Jurassic Park was one of my favorite movies to be absolutely horrified by when I was a child. For instance, when they made the T-Rex kind of growl when it was screaming, they made it from a baby elephant. So basically they had this, I wish I could pull it up now, but you can maybe watch it later. And you can watch the whole Jurassic Park movie maybe. I think I will do that. I haven't watched it in 15 years. I think I will watch it again. But basically when the T-Rex was screaming, it was I can't really remember exactly. I think it was either a dog or a baby elephant that they used. And they just pitch it down and put the all sorts of whatever sound processing to create this more kind of guttural, huge animal sounds. Yeah, okay. Well, if you don't have a baby elephant nearby, you can always use your stomach, Alan, to make these kind of monster sounds. That's absolutely fine. Actually, in one of my tracks a long time ago, I used farts, and when I was peeing, I was recording the sound when I was peeing and creating this kind of creak. So I really enjoyed that because I was panning it from the right ear, and it was like traveling through into my left ear, so I can really feel how I was like peeing through my brain. And also, of course, I found a mild kind of controlled pleasure in knowing that I was peeing through the minds of a lot of people. What's this? Yeah, it's more bison. Yeah, so that's then of course we have a lot of drones here happening. Let's see, these are the ones from Mike from Positive Center. Okay, high one. Probably, yeah, cut a lot of the low end from it. Let's see, what more do we have? Yeah, and this is also building. This is interesting here. It's building during this scene. And it's a very important part of that of this section. I mean, I wish I add this more often, like this kind of stringy things. And I think Alan or Medusa's Coil, as a movie kind of score artist, you know, the effects of strings. I mean, really, you don't really think about it here. You don't think about it, but it adds tension. You hear the strings? And here still you have the strings. See, without the strings, it's just nothing. I mean, now when we mute the strings, we hear like, okay, this track is horrible. I mean, this track wouldn't be a track without the strings. And we didn't even think about the strings before, but now when we hear that, wow, the strings are there. There's nothing wrong with the sound of my pee, Alan. So yeah, the string was there, and this little riser, this little rascal, let's see. Again, adding to the whole thing. What do we have here? What's this? Again, some nature sounds, and I apologize for the for my delay with the chat. I see the chat like maybe almost 1 minute after you write it. Yes, so you know. Especially, yeah, exactly. It is. Focus now on the vocals here. And meanwhile, I just want to, Alan, you remember we were talking about a string VST, you know, the developers who made the string with Hans Zimmer. Could you remind me of the name of this manufacturer? Because I think they just recently made kind of like a horror movie string VST thing by some horror movie scorer. And I really been thinking about buying that for music, after I really realized the impact of strings in this track. Really have forgot the name of what their name. Okay, I will do my best at trying to focus on something else right now. My ADHD is not very much controlled. I am trying to have some beer now to make it easier, but it only works so much. Yeah. Okay, this is not a bison. This is your music teacher. Okay, we need to listen to this original. -19. Remember that, Michelle, please. Really, like, leave all inhibitions aside. I encourage you, and like here, like really making really psychotic noise and sounds, and that can really add to the feel of the track. Spitfire, yeah, exactly. Spitfire audio, exactly. I need to get that. Thank you. Let's see, what's this? More maniacs. Okay, we need to listen to this without. Oh, a lot of processing here. Wait, let's see. Sorry if I'm making you guys uncomfortable right now, but I think it can be quite educational to do that. Really playing the whole thing just to make you really, really fucking uncomfortable. Let's see, what do we have the last one? Okay, let's listen to that without the pitch. It probably sounded the way I just did. Okay, let's listen to that in context so you know that it was for a good purpose. So yeah, they won't teach you that in any school. I'm pretty sure of that. So we basically went through all the sounds so far. So I mean, all of these, none of this is news, I think. But what I did here, in terms of arrangement, what you want to think about. And this is a classic kind of mentality when it comes to arranging music. When it professionally, you want to make it more and more intense So when you work with pop music is one thing. It's different in this kind of music, but with pop music, you want to give the listener instantly kind of like the hook. You want them to, like, in the first 10 seconds or something, you want to have them hooked. Here we're building it a bit longer, but what I take from that, and like everything else, it's about finding inspiration, understanding why they do different kind of things, can help you to use that in your own way. And what I have done here, for instance, in this track, and which resembles pop music, is that maybe in the first part of the track, maybe you have the verse, and then you have the chorus, and then you have a verse, and then the chorus, and then you have a short part, and then the chorus again, and then the chorus again, perhaps, just to like really milk the track. And here, what I have done here basically is I'm basically just giving the listener the same experience as here, only I am giving them a bit more of the power. I have given them a bit more high frequencies, a bit more volume to some parts, just to have a bit climax, so that when we have this long break of me laughing in the microphone and some weird moose kind of snoring, we have some sort of ecstasy, which is fine, and we have it here for 4 measures, you see. And then after that, everyone is smiling, dancing, and feeling that fine. This is a hell of a ride, and we are really enjoying it. I mean, we have made it through fucking almost 9 minutes, and we are landing here, and then I kill all the hi-hats and percussions basically here to open it up. We will listen how that sounds, just so you get an idea. Again, you think you have all of it, but then you have this one coming, I think. Yeah, more rides. And it's a short one. Woo! Ooh, and we're here, and then we're introduced to this new sound. Is it this one? Yeah, here. This one comes in. Still, you know, we're not only going back, and we're also adding that. This one, I think. Yeah, really. Okay. You see, and it goes up here in volume. You see, before it was -24, and now we're -17. So we raised it by 7 decibels, which is psychologically, I think, maybe even technically, digitally, I think it's twice it's psychoacoustically, it's twice the volume. We did a vote on Patreon on what you wanted to know more about, and one of the things is sound theory. And what you need to know about decibels is that I think, okay, I might not be completely right right now. If you increase it by 3 decibels, it's actually double the volume technically, because it's logarithmically. So if you add 3 decibels, it's quite double the amount of energy. But for our minds to perceive it as double, we need to add 6 decibels to, let's say, our mixer. And here I added 7, so it's double the volume in this section right here. And we will hear it, because we have it here, for instance. Let's see here. It's the same sound. You can hear it there, a bit low, and here. Plus 6 decibels, I think, is twice the perceived volume. And I'm really looking forward to making the videos on sound theory, because when I was studying sound at the university, one of the most mind-blowing and inspirational parts of the whole thing was actually understanding what sound is. Like, what is a sound wave? What is a square wave? What's the difference? How does it affect the air particles in the room? And how does that affect our ears? And how does that make a microphone transmit it into an electrical current? What is an electrical current? How is sound in our room transferred into electricity in a wire? What's inside a wire? And how is a filter affecting that? And all these kind of things. It's so amazingly inspiring. And once you understand it, it's very simple. It's very, very simple, actually. And I am really looking forward to explain to you how that works. But now we're talking about the arrangement, and this is the impact I wanted here, just to have the ecstasy here, to really give a reward for everyone, all of you 10 people here sticking by, to have something to, thank you for paying me for staying for this whole horrible break of you laughing in the microphone. Now we will listen for a while longer. And then I give you a bit of sound here, that little duck sound, and we will basically here from here, we will do what we did here from there. You see, it's smaller, but we're doing it again. And that's a good fundamental concept to think about when you're doing the arrangement. You build it slowly, ecstasy, blah blah, break, and then you do the same thing again, but you do it more fast. Listen. We have a new sound here. Yay. This one is also new. And this one. These two sounds are new to this part. And all of this, we already heard this. Feel the difference. cinematic feel that we have also this one. Also new sound. All these things, you don't really think about them until you hear them now. But if you listen again, this, let's see. This. We turn them off. Really adds to the tension. I'm glad to make you anxious, by the way, Mr. Lizard. Yeah, and here, yes, birds. These are new. Canada goose, common loon, common yellow throat. Always a good thing to add a common yellow throat to the end of your track. You never know. You hear? Common yellow throat. Yeah. Did we have, what happened here? Did I have any vocals here? No? It looks like it, but oops. Okay, we need to listen to that, I think. Okay. Mr. Lizard, I advise you to turn off your sound for just a few seconds. Yeah. And I think we can all feel the relief of finally make it through the cave. Let's see if we can even hear it in a again. It's more than what you can hear, it's what you can feel. You know, when you, hopefully, when you listen to the track, you just feel this. You feel the same thing. And you feel that it's your feeling, and you feel that but this helps you to push it, like get your heart pumping. So, well, anyways, now we have gone through the whole track. We will perhaps have a listen to the, you know what we'll do? We will listen to the break. we will listen only to my vocals just to be a bit extra eccentric. And then I will go to the bathroom and I will be back in due time. Let's see, is it enough sound here though? No, we will play it here. Okay, I'm back. I hope that was enjoyable. Now we will go through the return channels, and let's see here. I just want to bring some attention to the poll that we had on Patreon recently, where I asked you what topics you guys wanted to talk about. And recently on a poll, I asked you how many videos you'd like to see every week, and we had an answer that was like 3 to 4 videos every week. And since I am live streaming now every Tuesday like this, I personally count it as basically 1 video every week. But I will try to make more, of course. But some videos require a lot of planning. And as we can see here, we have some interesting results. A lot of people want videos on mixing and mastering, which of course will happen. It's interesting that this is the thing that people want to learn more about. And of course, I'm really interested to dig into that. We have on second place we have modular and synthesis, and on the first we have sound theory. And really, I think to understand modular and synthesis, we really need to talk about sound theory. So I'm planning to make a really I think in a live stream, we will talk about sound theory, where I talk about it, where I keep ranting the way I've been doing today, a bit about sound theory. But I will also try to make a scripted kind of and edited, real proper professional video on sound theory, where I explain the basics. Because understanding what sound is and what the different effects really are doing to that is vital to really understand how to use it. And on top of that, I will, even though you have voted that you're not interested in video walkthroughs, as a from my perspective, I feel that, for instance, like now we have gone through this project, I feel that we have touched on so many topics, maybe not going really deep into equalizing, compression, reverb, delay, because there are a lot of techniques there that I will show you, which are not commonly known in our scene at all, which will really, really improve your mixing a lot. But we will go into now the effects channels that I have. One of the reverbs I use a lot is the little plate. I use it a lot these days. Yeah, I feel a bit bored talking about this, but I think we talked about this a few times. But let's see, little plate. We have the. Let's see if we can find a channel which uses it a lot. Maybe this sound. What's that? 32 here. Yeah. And what I try to do when really just briefly talking about the return channels, it's having this one, a lower kind of reverb, which builds an atmosphere from the bottom, like something that reverberates from the floor and the walls, you know. And then you have a brighter reverb, which pulls elements more in your focus. And then there's a room reverb, which is a bit shorter. Do we have one here, the synth, for instance? Let's see, the 45. Shorter, just to bring a bit of more direct kind of room feeling. Let's see, the D, I can't imagine that I use that a lot. It's on a very old, I mean, I have a template. I think for one video, we will make a new template for myself, where I make my own new return channels that I will use for the rest of the year. Because that's a very important part when you want to work and create albums and have a coherent sound and all of that, is to create a basic template that wherever you open your Ableton project, you have the same effects and space that brings a coherence to your sound. And in this case, I didn't use the replica which I used to make drones with. It's a very nice effect, though. I think I will no, I won't show it to you. Fuck that. See, we have the delay. I have a kind of just a regular, let's see, from D, I should have something on that, maybe from the hi-hats. Let's see. No, okay. Okay, I'm not really using that because I think I am processing it everything on every individual channel. But what I have here is basically just a stereo delay, something that's ping-ponging, a kind of giving space. And then I have the echo, which gives a more straight kind of delay. Yeah, and I think that's it for this video. Yeah, Damien, sure. Thank you for not breaking the rules, but if you can do that, of course. I mean, if you're interested in more than 3 things from that list, feel free to vote for more topics. If there are actually more topics that you would like to touch on, then of course you can vote for more. But I think this is a very good result. from the beginning. I mean, here, for instance, now we've been through this walkthrough, which not a lot of people have used this walkthrough, but we are talking quite a lot about mixing, arranging. We've been talking about that a lot, and some sound theory. But yeah, we haven't. All these effects ideas really require a bit more focused sessions where we talk more specifically on how to EQ, how to compress, when to compress, and using reverbs and delays and how to use them. For instance, I think in the terms of reverb, I would say I might go deeper than I should, but in this scene, not a lot of people pay attention to how to properly set up a reverb when it comes to decay times and pre-delays, and have the decays and have the decay and pre-delay pumping with your track, how to count mathematically with your beat to have the pre-delay hitting in the right way, and have the pre-delay ducking the original sound so that you get a reverb that's bigger, although it's still small, and EQing reverb is also very important, and how to and when to and why. And these things, we will really go into it, and these are not obvious things. And you see here, it's one of the least voted things, although I think it's the most important thing for most of you because you're working with deep techno. This is reverb land. Everyone is using a lot of reverb, and really knowing your reverb, knowing your delays really can make your deep techno sound amazingly different and stand out compared to a lot of the more amateurish sounding processing, which you hear mostly in released music and a lot of the tracks that you love. And we will talk about that, and I'm really looking forward to share those ideas with you. But I think that's for today. We will listen to the whole track once again. Now I have managed to mute something. Let's see, I think it was probably a release there. Yep. We will listen to the whole track once again. If you have any questions, please write it during the course of listening to this track, and I will answer them when we're done. If no more further questions, I thank you for coming tonight, spending some time with this project and together. And I am really looking forward to hear your music in the Discord group that we have. Yeah, thank you for supporting me in doing this, and I'm really enjoying to spend some time and talk about music production with you. So yeah, let's have a listen. Okay, bonus, we will listen to this. Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. We will see you, or I will see you, on Tuesday. Or see you, you will hear me, and I will read you. In 1 week from now, I will live stream every Tuesday at 5 CST, Bolsta time. And we will talk about new topics every week. That's my plan. And thank you for making that happen. Have a great evening. Bye.